It's known as different names. Beit Knesset Ben Ezra, also referred to as El Geniza Synagogue, or Beit Knesset El Geniza. Also, another name is Synagogue of the Levantines, Al-Shamiyin, and it's a former Jewish congregation and synagogue located in Fustat, which is part of Old Cairo, Egypt. Now, according to the old, let's say, local folklore, it's the actual site where Moshe Rabbeinu, baby Moses, was actually found. That's what's chronicled over. I believe it's, you can actually see pictures of the former museum. I'm looking at a picture as we speak on Wikipedia from this amazing synagogue in the year 2011. It's now a Jewish museum. I think they dubbed Nusach Sfard, the Minhag of Eretz Yisrael of its day. Obviously nowadays it's currently a Jewish museum tourist site, and obviously located in Egypt. It's also known as the synagogue of the Jerusalemites or the Palestinians. There's a small population of Egyptian Jews now, so it's no longer active. So now, hence, the status as a tourism site or Jewish museum. Now, the Geniza, or the storeroom of the synagogue, was found, I believe, in the 19th century to contain a treasure of forgotten, stored away Hebrew, let's say, various Judeo-Arabic, secular and sacred manuscripts. The collection of approximately 40,000 items, known as the Cairo Geniza, was brought to the University of Cambridge, in Cambridge, England, I think through the instigation of Solomon Schechter, and it's now divided between various academic libraries, let's just say, with the majority being kept in Cambridge University. Now, it's an ancient institution and occupied at least 3 buildings in its history. Obviously, there's been many major and minor renovations during its time period. The current building, I believe, dates from the 1890s. Now, I think the founding date is unknown, but there's a strong evidence reported over from documents found in the Geniza that it predates 882 Roman era, possibly pre-Islamic. I think in 882, the Pope of the Coptic Orthodox Church sold a church and its grounds to a group of Jewish people. And some 19th century scholars assumed this was the origin of Ben Ezra. However, the buyers were followers of, let's say, various Talmudic academies, yeshivot in Babylonia. And Ben Ezra was a congregation that observed the teachings of the rival Talmudic academies in Syria, Palestine. This was all reported over. Modern scholars will agree that the 882 land sale was to become, I think, a rival synagogue. Now, little is known about the original building. I think in the year 1012, the Fatimid Caliph al-Hakim bi Amar Allah ordered the destruction of all Jewish and Christian places of worship. The original Ben Ezra synagogue was torn down, reported over, its bricks and timber sold for scrap. And now the second building, let's explore the status of the second building. I think 11th century till 1168. Now the new Khalifa, let's say Al-Zahir, Li Izaz Din Allah, allowed the reconstruction of, let's say, Christian and Jewish institutions. And the synagogue was rebuilt, I think, in the year 1024 to 1040. It was a study of carved wood, a Torah ark, door reliably attributed to the synagogue sheds, and lights on the history of the synagogue's renovations. Now, I think the door is jointly owned by the Walters Art Museum in Baltimore and the Yeshiva University Museum in New York. The radiocarbon dating verifies that the wood dates are from 11th century Common Era. Now, it's interesting. We can add more within regards to this. Obviously, historically, synagogues included the Geniza, a place where outdated documents containing the name of God, since Jewish teaching in such, let's say, parts had to be restored with reverence. That's what a Geniza is. You don't just throw away Torah articles away and stuff like that. You have to bury it. And the 11th century building incorporated an unusually large Geniza, 2 stories high, more silo, and with a rooftop opening accessible from above. Some documents added to it had been stored in the previous building, and the oldest dated document is about 150 years older than the Geniza itself. Documents continued, let's say, to accumulate there for about 850 years. The diverse collection of documents included rabbinical texts, historical accounts, and religious and secular poems dating from the 6th century all the way to the 19th century, respectively. So that's another very interesting a tidbit within regards to that. Now, there was a fire in 1168. I think in 1168, it deliberately set fire to destroyed much of the city of Fustat, where the synagogue was then located. I believe this was chronicled over. Now, Fustat is now a part of Cairo. The Islamic vizier, his name was Shawa, ordered the city burned to prevent it from falling into the hands of an invading Christian crusader army called the Saladin, who became the Sultan of Egypt, shortly thereafter ordering the rebuilding of the Fustat. Now, Maimonides in Fustat, this was between the years 1168 to 1204, the Jewish philosopher, physician, and astronomer Maimonides settled in Fustat within a short walk of the Ben Ezra Synagogue. He lived there until the death in 1204, until his death. Maimonides became a Nagid, a leader of Egyptian Jewish community in 1171, and prayed at the Ben Ezra. Many of the Geniza documents, including some of his own handwriting, which discuss his life and work, and are the most important primary biographical sources for him. It's reported over. Now, the Torah Ark over there, let's say it's incompatible with that. I believe the door of this is incompatible with that of Fatimid Kalfira from 909 to 1171 Common Era, and is more representative of the Mamluk Sultanate from 1250 to 1571 Common Era, specifically the 15th century. Now, I think there's a medallion that is going to decorate the door and is designed with a motif common to bookbinding of that period. It's known that a 15th century fire in the synagogue damaged the bima, or the pulpit, you could say. One plausible theory is that wood from the damaged bima was repurposed to make a new door to the Torah Ark. The synagogue was repaired and renovated once again in the year 1488. Now, the door also has traces of paint that conservators have identified as being no older than the 19th century. It is known that the synagogue was renovated once again in 1880s, completely rebuilt in 1890s, and then remodeled in the early 20th century. Now, the discovery of the Geniza, the fourth building, a famous man, Jacob Sapir, I think we've spoken about before, he was a Jew of Romanian birth, and I think the family themselves settled in Ottoman Palestine when he was a boy. He became a rabbi, Rabbi Sapir did, in 1859. He took a world tour to raise money for the reconstruction of the Hurba synagogue in Jerusalem. Remember, we've spoken about Rabbi Yaakov Sapir in this series before. This had been destroyed by the Muslim authorities in the year 1721. Now, Rabbi Sapir was the first to recognize, let's say, his, let's say, this historical significance of the Ben Ezra Geniza. He described in an 1874 book. There was a Jewish collector book, Elkan Nathan Adler, was the first European to enter the Geniza in 1888. And he purchased about 25,000 documents. While the synagogue was being rebuilt in 1889 to 1892, the documents lay in an enormous pile out in the open. Now, an epidemiologist, Count Riamo de Hulst, examined some documents in the years. Come 1896, Cambridge University, I think at that time Solomon Schechter was instructor, later became a prominent American rabbi. I think he very much connected to the conservative movement. We're an Orthodox channel. We don't support the ideas of conservative Judaism, just as a side note. He began the first in-depth academic investigation of documents from the Geniza and arranged to have the remaining documents removed from Cairo to various university libraries. I mean, Solomon Schechter, there's schools, conservative schools, modern day in America, named after him, just to give that point. Egypt's Jewish community is at the end of a dramatic decline. I think from about 80,000 people in the 1920s to less than a dozen Egyptian ancestry now currently living in Cairo. According to the Ben Ezra Synagogue, functions now as a tourist attraction, a museum, rather than, let's say, functioning congregation. I think the Egyptian Prime Minister, Mustafa Madbouli, inaugurated the synagogue on the 31st of August, 2023. Obviously, there was a decade-long renovation. The renovation was completed by the Drop of Milk Association that works to preserve Egyptian Jewish heritage. The synagogue ceiling was reinforced to prevent collapse. The library was heavily restored and the building was further cleaned and insulated. Given the small population of Egyptian Jews, the renovations was largely done to improve tourism to the synagogue. Come December 2023, it was reported that there was, I think, tensions between various Jews and the government authority responsible for managing the site. That's what's chronicled over here on Wikipedia. But that's very interesting. Some interesting tidbits on the famous synagogue here in Egypt, the Ben Ezra Synagogue. I recommend everyone to learn more within regards to it. Please subscribe to our channel here. We explore the great rabbis of yesterday in this channel. some of the greatest rabbis in Jewish history, and we look at their life. So subscribe and enjoy, and wishing you all well. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and take care.